Hey, welcome to UK Wildcrafts. So to get a good fire going, you'll need tinder, kindling, and then a bigger fuel source. So tinder is your material that will take your spark and turn it into a flame. You can use pine fat wood, thistle seeds, or man-made material like cotton wool. And kindling is your material to take that flame and then turn it into a bigger heat source, which will then burn with fuel and get a sustainable fire going. In this video I'm going to be concentrating on the kindling, and I'll show you my top 5 natural kindling materials. So the first kindling I recommend are dry twigs. That might seem pretty obvious, but specifically what you want to go for are the dead twigs on standing trees. Whereas if you look at the twigs that are on the floor, they will burn, but they'll probably be a bit damp, so not as easy to light. If you find dead twigs, when you snap them, they'll snap off easily and you get a nice dry sound. And also the wood won't be green, it'll just be nice and light brown. These go up really nicely, and try and get some of different sizes, some thicker ones, some nice and thin ones. And always check for that nice dry snap. What you don't really want to get is living wood. So you see this hazel here, and you look on the branches, you might be able to make out that it's got leaf buds, little green leaf buds on the end. Yeah, that means that the wood is living, and if you try to snap it, it doesn't snap easily, and the wood inside is green. That means there's moisture in there and it'll be a lot harder to burn. Next up we have common hogweed, and it's the dead growth from last year you want, and you'll find this most of the year, especially in the winter. It's got quite a thick woody stem which are hollow, and these go up quite nicely. Dead grass is really good for getting a fire going, and the more that it's off the ground the better. You see, like it is here, where it's kind of like resting on branches. That means the air's getting through it nicely and drying it. There's lots of different types of grasses, and any of them will do. This is ivy, and you'll find it growing in most woodlands, climbing up trees. And the dead stems make really good kindling. They go up really well. And again, because they're climbing trees, they're getting a lot of air rushing past them, keeping them really dry. And that's the leaves of the ivy. So you just want to make sure when you break it off you get a nice snap like you do with the dry twigs, and it's not green inside. Silver birch bark is also really good for fire lighting. You can use it as a tinder as well as a kindling, and it's really easy to identify by it's got nice silver bark, and it's got little black striations running across horizontally. Now you can use the living tree or the dead. I usually prefer to use the dead ones, and you'll find because the bark has a lot of natural oils in it that are good for fire, it also protects the bark. So when you get dead trees, you'll often find them rotting, but the bark is still fine. It's usually the last thing to rot. So you can just run your knife down and take off some nice pieces. And this will stay lit for quite a long time, and even when it's wet it will burn. So today for my tinder I'm just using cotton wool, but I'll do another video on all the natural tinders that you can find in the woods. So I'm going to get some nice dry grass, make a little bird's nest out of it. And you'll notice here, for the base of my fire, I've put down some wood with a bit of bark over it, just for protecting the embers from my fire from hitting the ground. And when the ground's damp like this, those embers will just go out straight away. So build a nice protective layer for your fire. And I've got my ferro rod, which will chuck some nice hot sparks into my tinder. Lit. So your dry grass goes up nicely. And the other kindling that I have, this is common hogweed, also goes up very nicely. So once I've got all the dead grass and hogweed on, I'll just start adding on some of the smaller twigs and build up to the thicker twigs. You don't have to use all these different types of kindling, but it's best to use some smaller stuff first and then larger. Like, I'd always recommend using maybe hogweed or dry grass first before you start putting on twigs. And once you've got some decent embers, then you can start putting on your larger pieces of fuel. So now all my kindling's on pretty much, and the ivy really starts to feed the fire, and that'll be hot enough now, and there's enough embers that you can start putting on pieces of larger fuel, depending on how big you want your fire to get. So if you've got any other of your favourite natural kindlings that I've not mentioned, then let me know down in the comment section. Thanks for watching UK Wildcrafts.